Syria's National Commission for Missing Persons, NCMP, says the children of dentist and former chess champion Rania Al-Abbasi, who disappeared with their parents more than a decade ago under then-President Bashar al-Assad, are likely dead. We have reached reliable and corroborating results that allow us to conclude with a high degree of professional certainty that Dr. Rania Al-Abbasi's children are deceased, the NCMP said in a statement on Saturday.
Rising fuel prices triggered by the Middle East war are driving a sharp increase in carpooling, with a ride-sharing platform reporting a surge in new users seeking cheaper ways to travel. The world's largest carpooling platform, BlaBlaCar, said soaring energy costs have pushed 600,000 additional drivers onto the app this year, 20% more than initially projected, as commuters look to offset the rising cost of fuel. Japan's defense minister has rebutted Beijing's claim that his country is engaging in a new militarism, criticizing China for its military expansion and lack of transparency. Speaking on the last day of a defense summit in Singapore, Shinjiro Koizumi argued it was actually China and its huge arsenal of weapons that was of serious concern to the international community.
Police in France have detained more than 280 people in Paris after violent clashes erupted when thousands poured onto the streets after Paris Saint-Germain's victory in the Champions League final. About 22 Zeros and police were deployed across France for the game on Saturday, including 8,000 in Paris, after unrest marred PSG's win in the competition last year. Paris tram lines were halted, several metro stations shut and bus traffic halted in places in a bid to minimize disturbances.
United States President Donald Trump said he had secured guarantees from Iran that it would not develop nuclear weapons. As reports emerged, he had sent a tougher peace proposal back to Tehran. Any tweaks to the proposal could prolong even further an agreement to formally end the Middle East war and open the Strait of Hormuz maritime route after weeks of efforts to secure a deal. Despite fractious rhetoric and the occasional flare-up of armed conflict, the occasional piftarepwire.
Islamabad, the Federal Investigation Agency, FIA, offloaded 39,786 passengers in 2025 under a lawful, intelligence-driven and risk-based system to curb irregular migration and human smuggling, a top official said on Sunday. Speaking to a select group of senior journalists, Immigration Additional Director General Numan Siddiqui said passenger offloading, often criticized publicly, was primarily a preventive step aimed at saving lives, protecting citizens from exploitation abroad, and safeguarding Pakistan's international image.
Abuja, Nigeria, Okbola thought a fertility supplement she found online might help her conceive. Instead, within days of taking it, she struggled to breathe. Her experience reflects a growing online trade in unverified herbal remedies promoted across social media. Bola, not her real name, who is in her early 40s and has never had children, said she bought the supplement earlier this year and increased the recommended dosage, hoping for quicker results after hearing about it from friends and family.
The San Antonio Spurs, sparked by superstar Victor Wembanyama, have advanced to the NBA Finals for the first time since 2014 by dethroning the defending champions to Oklahoma City Thunder championship showdown against the New York Knicks. The Spurs captured the best of 7 Western Conference Finals 4-3 on Fosse ante in San Antonio and reached into the NBA Finals, which begin on Wednesday against the Knicks in San Antonio.
Police on Saturday detained more than 280 people in Paris after violent clashes erupted when thousands poured onto the streets during Paris Saint-Germain's Champions League final victory. Some 22,000 police were deployed across France for the game, including 8,000 in Paris, after unrest marred PSG's win in the competition last year.
Surgery is also called an operation, and the place where it is performed is called an operating theatre. All types of surgery must be considered serious. A common measure of how serious it could be is whether it will be performed under local or general anaesthesia. The former entails a procedure that does not require long-term hospital recovery, whereas the latter necessitates it because of the surgery, the more invasive nature of the surgery, and the recovery from general anesthesia.
In last week's column, I discussed how certain Pakistani historians challenged the reactionary national narrative constructed by the state after 1971, when the country's eastern wing violently broke away to become Bangladesh. The post-1971 narrative amplified political Islam, weaving it into what was officially branded as the Pakistan ideology in 1978. Though some historians began dismantling this construct in the 1980s, it took another 3 decades for their efforts to bear fruit.
When Abiy Ahmed became Ethiopia's prime minister in 2018, he offered a clean slate for Africa's oldest uncolonized nation, which had been suffocated by decades of strict state control. His predecessor, Haile Mariam Desalegn, had overseen strong economic growth during his nearly 6-year rule, but continued a historical pattern of using violent crackdowns to crush dissent. This repression sparked years of protests and widened the divide between his government and the public, ultimately leading to his resignation.
The traffic was normal on Quetta's otherwise overcrowded and narrow Spinney Road at sunset as I entered the recently established Artist Cafe, housed at the Nouri Nasir Khan Cultural Complex. At the entrance, a signboard of Artist Cafe directed me toward the 2 small separate gardens, with a green wooden structure in front. That was the tiny cafe, where about a dozen people were sitting in 4 groups.
Heat is becoming a defining feature of life in many parts of the world. It influences how cities are built, how much electricity they consume, when people can work outdoors, and increasingly how governments prepare for emergencies. The latest warning from the World Meteorological Organization suggests that these pressures are likely to intensify. Global temperatures are expected to remain at or near record levels over the next 5 years, with a strong possibility that the world will experience its hottest year on record before the decade is out.
The insurgency in Balochistan has posed a different set of problems for the state, which is still struggling to fully understand its dynamics. Perhaps the biggest challenge is defining the unrest in the province and identifying the factors that are contributing to it. Even as it tries to understand the insurgency, the state has become fixated on the youth, particularly the educated ones, whom it sees as leading the unrest. It sees them as the core of the problem, which it seeks to address through narrative campaigns and a few incentives. In its search for quick fixes, it expects rapid results. And these don't materialize, it stigmatizes the very youth it seeks to influence.
Marcia Lucas, the Oscar-winning editor of the original Star Wars film, has died aged 80. Lucas, who was married to Star Wars creator George Lucas during the making of the first 3 films, was regarded as a pivotal creative force behind the space saga's early success, imbuing the original series with emotional depth and narrative clarity.
Clashes between football fans and police across France have led to more than 400 arrests following the victory of Paris Saint-Germain, PSG, in the Champions League final against Arsenal. Thousands of officers were deployed to curb unrest that disrupted bus, train and rail services in the capital, Paris. Quetta. Pakistan Railways resumed train operations from Balochistan on Saturday, restoring services after a 3-day suspension. Railway officials said, according to the officials, train operations from the province have been fully restored, with the Jaffa Express departing from Quetta for Peshawar. They said that the return service of the Jaffa Express will also depart from Peshawar for Quetta as per the timetable, restoring connectivity between the province and other parts of the country.
Diplomats see high chances of final agreement despite hiccups. Insist both sides want to avoid open-ended conflict. Nuclear issues likely to be handled in later negotiations. Ex-envoy Munir Akram says gaps are more about narrative than substance was Gazens. Islamabad remains a leading contender to host the formal signing ceremony if negotiators succeed in finalizing a deal, diplomatic sources said. Pentagon chief says Trump is patient, wants to make a great deal to ensure Iran doesn't have nukes. US military fires on Gambia-flagged ship violating Iran blockade. War Secretary asserts Iran under pressure to open Strait of Hormuz with or without deal. Iran asks vessels traversing vital waterway to comply with its regulations. Hexeth Lords PM Shehbaz CDF Munir for role in US-Iran peace talks says true friendship developing with Islamabad, Singapore. As negotiators from Washington and Tehran work to bridge major differences, blocking an agreement to end the weeks-long war, Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth on Saturday warned that the US was ready to restart attacks on Iran if a deal was not reached.
In some parts of Europe, Russia's full-scale invasion of Ukraine can feel like a distant threat. But in Romania, that war is right next door and increasingly dangerous. In Galati, there is an apartment block with a hole in the roof that proves it.
Italian authorities have barred Kanye West and Travis Scott concerts from going ahead, citing public order and security concerns. Prefect Salvatore Angier announced on Friday that the two events, due to take place in the northern city of Reggio Emilia in July, would not take place, following a request from the local Jewish community to cancel West's gig. Colombia's foreign ministry has accused Ecuador's president of deliberate interference in its forthcoming election after he promised a right-wing candidate he would lift tariffs. Daniel Noboa framed his conversation with Colombian presidential hopeful Abelardo de la Espriella on Friday as one was reached an agreement on trade and security, saying the two had reached an agreement on trade and security.
The rapid spread of Ebola in the Democratic Republic of Congo has created a deeply alarming situation. The medical charity Médecins Sans Frontières, MSF, has warned. Speaking 2 weeks on from the outbreak being declared, MSF Deputy Director Dr. Alan Gonzalez said never before had so many cases been recorded so soon.
The US, UK and Australia say they will develop underwater drone technology to protect undersea cables and boost defence. Under their military alliance known as AUKUS, the uncrewed undersea vehicle UUV technology is expected to be ready by next year. While the project's total cost was not stated, UK Defence Secretary John Healey said his nation would contribute 150 metres, 201 metres.
The war in Ukraine has received less media attention in recent months. That changed this week when a drone hit a building in the Romanian city of Galati, a major port city on the Danube River near the Ukrainian border. Romanian President Nicu Zordan blamed Russia for the incident.
Paris Saint-Germain held their nerve in a cagey Champions League final to retain the title by beating Arsenal 4-3 on penalties as Saturday's nail-biting showdown ended 1-1 after extra time, cementing the French side's status among Europe's modern greats. Arsenal defender Gabriel blasted his spot kick over Matvei Safonov's crossbar at the Puskás Arena in Budapest. His miss confirming PSE as the first club to retain the trophy since Real Madrid completed their 3-year reign from 2016 to 2018.
Provision in a bill before the United States Congress could tie the American and Israeli militaries far more closely together, deepening their cooperation on weapons research, production, and technology. The proposal, titled the United States-Israel Defense Technology Cooperation Initiative, appears as Section 224 of the House Armed Services Committee's version of the fiscal year 2027 National Defense Authorization Act, NDAA, the annual U.S. defense policy bill.
Meta is developing an AI-powered pendant that it plans to start testing in the next year, according to a memo viewed by The Information. This device would presumably build on the work of Limitless, an AI device startup that Meta acquired at the end of 2025. The startup made an AI pendant that users could attach to their shirt or wear as a necklace. To record coercion would allow it to. At the time, Meta said the acquisition would allow it to accelerate our work to build AI-enabled wearables. The golden age of Microsoft's GitHub Copilot appears to be at an end, for the little guy at least. The company is switching its billing system from a flat subscription rate to a token sage system that has the potential to bill users at a significantly higher rate. Bigger enterprises may still have the juice for it, but smaller companies and workers could find themselves wondering how they're supposed to balance the monthly budget. The changes, which will take place June 1, mean that users will charge based on how many tokens they burn through as they work instead of a low flat rate based on requests.